Their Secrets, My Lies, Deleted Chapters. Episode 1. Enough was never enough. Drew used to think marriage was supposed to make life easier. Not easy. Just easier. Two people carrying the same weight from different sides. If he cooked, she could rest. If she folded clothes, he could handle the kids. If one of them was tired, the other one stepped in. That was what he thought they had built. But somewhere along the way, helping stopped feeling like love. It started feeling like proof. And the problem with proof is that once somebody stops believing in you, you can show them evidence every day, and they will still call it not enough. That night, Drew came home with groceries in one hand, work still sitting on his shoulders, and his phone buzzing in his pocket. He did not answer it. He already knew who it was. Brandy had called twice that day. Not enough to be suspicious. Just enough to be remembered. He set the bags on the counter and looked around the kitchen. Dishes in the sink. School papers on the island. One child's shoe in the hallway. A half-empty juice cup sitting on the coffee table like it paid rent. Normal house stuff. Family stuff. The kind of stuff he used to laugh about. Now it all felt like another list waiting on him. Marissa was in the bedroom getting dressed. Not for them. Not for dinner. Not for anything he knew about. She came out while he was putting chicken in the sink. You just now getting home? Drew looked at the clock on the microwave. I stopped at the store. You always got a reason. He said nothing. That was how most arguments started now. Not with a real issue, with tone. Tone had become the match. Everything else was gasoline. Drew started putting groceries away. Marissa leaned against the wall, arms folded. You didn't pick up the dry cleaning? He stopped for half a second, then kept moving. I forgot. You forgot. I said I forgot. But you remembered groceries. The kids need to eat. And I need my clothes. He closed the refrigerator door slowly. Not hard. Slow. Because slamming it would become the story. And Drew had learned that in that house the reaction always went on trial before the reason. I'll get it tomorrow, he said. Marissa laughed under her breath. That's always your answer. Tomorrow. He turned toward her. What do you want from me tonight, Marissa? She looked at him like she had been waiting for that question. I want you to do what you say you're going to do. I do. No, Drew. You do what you want to do, then act like everybody should be grateful. He stared at her. For a second, he wanted to list everything. The bills, the groceries, the mornings, the pickups, the homework, the cooking, the cleaning. The nights he stayed up after everybody else went to sleep just to make sure the house was ready for the next day. But men like Drew did not list pain right away. They swallowed it first. Then resented people for not knowing it was there. I help, he said. Marissa tilted her head. You help? I cook, I clean. I take care of the kids, I work. I make sure we're comfortable. You want a trophy? That one landed. He looked away. Not because he was scared. Because if he kept looking at her, something honest was going to come out. And honest did not always mean helpful. Marissa stepped closer. You do the basic stuff and act like you're carrying the whole family. Drew's jaw tightened. The basic stuff? Yes, basic. That is what you are supposed to do. He nodded slowly. There it was. Supposed to. Those two words had been eating at him for months. Everything he did became something he was supposed to do. Nothing counted as love anymore. Nothing counted as effort. Nothing counted as sacrifice. If he stayed up late, he was supposed to. If he woke up early, he was supposed to. If he paid something, fixed something, carried something, cleaned something, handled something, he was supposed to. And maybe she was right. Maybe that was marriage. Maybe that was fatherhood. Maybe that was manhood. But if everything was expected, where did appreciation go? Drew looked at the chicken in the sink, the water running over it. The sound filled the silence between them. Our relationship used to be about making life easier for each other, he said. Marissa rolled her eyes. Here we go. No, listen. I am listening. You're waiting to respond. She folded her arms tighter. Drew turned the water off. The kitchen got quiet. We used to help each other, he said. Now it feels like I'm being measured every day, and every day I'm short. Marissa looked at him for a long second, then said, Maybe because you are. That was the moment something in Drew went still. Not angry, not loud, still. Because anger would have given him somewhere to put it. Stillness made him feel it. He looked at the woman he had built a life with and wondered when her voice had stopped sounding like home. Maybe he changed. Maybe she changed. Maybe they both did. But whatever this was, it did not feel like partnership anymore. It felt like being employed by somebody who was never satisfied. His phone buzzed again. Marissa looked down at his pocket. Who keeps calling you? Nobody. She smiled. That small smile people give when they do not believe you but want you to know they noticed. Nobody calls a lot. Drew reached into his pocket and silenced it without looking. That made it worse. Marissa's eyes sharpened. You don't want to answer? I'm cooking. You weren't cooking when it rang the first 2 times. Drew looked at her. Then his phone buzzed again. This time it was a text. He should not have looked, but he did. Brandy. 1 sentence. Call me when you alone. Drew locked the screen fast, not fast enough. Marissa saw the movement. Who is Brandy? His face stayed calm, at least he hoped it did. Old friend. Old friend? Yes. From where? Before you. Marissa laughed once, sharp. Everything with you is before me until it becomes my problem. Drew slipped the phone back into his pocket. You looking for something to argue about? No, Drew. I'm looking at my husband acting funny. He almost said, and I'm looking at my wife getting dressed to go somewhere she didn't mention. But he did not. Because the rumor was still fresh, still unconfirmed. Still sitting in the back of his mind like a loaded gun he had not decided to pick up. 2 days earlier, Brandy had told him something. Not directly. Brandy never handed truth over clean. She placed it near you and watched to see if you would reach for it. I heard Marissa been close with somebody at work, she had said. Drew remembered the way she said close. Not as a fact, as a door. He asked who. Brandy said she did not know for sure. Then she gave him just enough to poison him. Lunches, late calls. A man's name she had heard twice. Nothing he could take to Marissa. Enough he could not stop thinking about. That was the thing about rumors. People act like rumors are weak because they are not proof. But rumors do not need to prove anything. They only need to change the way you look at somebody. And ever since Brandy said it, Drew had been watching Marissa differently. The way she turned her screen. The way she laughed at certain messages. The way she said work stuff too quickly. The way she got dressed when there was nowhere they were going together. Marissa grabbed her purse from the chair. Drew looked at it. You going somewhere? She froze for a half second, then kept moving. My cousin asked me to stop by. What cousin? Why? I asked a question. And I asked why. Drew gave a small nod. There it was again. Position, not conversation. 2 people fighting over who had the right to ask. Marissa walked toward the hallway mirror and fixed her hair. Drew watched her reflection. She looked good. Too good for a random stop-by. That thought made him hate himself a little. Because maybe she was just getting dressed. Maybe he was turning suspicion into evidence. Maybe Brandy had put a story in his head. and now he was making Marissa live inside it. But then Marissa smiled at her phone. Soft, quick, gone. Drew saw it. He said nothing. She looked up and caught him watching. What? Nothing. No what? I said nothing. You always do that. Do what? Act quiet so I look crazy. Drew almost laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was familiar. That house had become a place where silence was also an accusation. If he talked, he was arguing. If he stayed quiet, he was playing victim. If he left, he was running. If he stayed, he was cold. Enough was never enough. Marissa walked past him. The perfume hit first. Then the door opened. Before she stepped out, she turned back. Make sure the kids eat before they start asking for snacks. Drew looked at the chicken, then at her. I know how to feed my children. She stared at him. Then act like it. The door closed. Not slammed, just closed. That was worse. A slammed door gave him anger. A closed door gave him silence. Drew stood in the kitchen for a long time. The house was still. The kids were in the back room laughing at something on television. That sound should have softened him. Instead, it made him feel alone inside a life that was full of people. His phone buzzed again. Brandy. This time he answered. He did not say hello, neither did she. For a few seconds, they just breathed into the line. Then Brandy said, You alone? Drew looked toward the hallway, then toward the front door. Yeah. I wasn't going to say anything else. But, Brandy sighed. But I think you need to pay attention to your wife. Drew closed his eyes. There it was. Not proof, not evidence. A second needle in the same wound. With who? He asked. I don't know if I should say. Then why call me? Because I know you, Drew. No, you know who I used to be. That's not true. It is. Brandy got quiet, then said, You sound tired. He laughed under his breath. I am tired. Of what? Drew looked around the kitchen. Groceries still out, chicken still in the sink. Bills on the counter. Kids laughing down the hall. A wife who had just left dressed like she was going somewhere that mattered. A friend on the phone telling him to watch his own home. He said the first honest thing that came to him. I'm tired of being measured by somebody who keeps moving the line. Brandy did not answer right away. When she finally spoke, her voice was softer. Then stopped standing there waiting to be chosen. That sentence did something. Not because it was right. Because it touched the part of him that already wanted permission. Drew opened his eyes. What does that mean? You know what it means. He should have hung up. That would have been the clean choice. Instead, he stayed on the line. And that was how it started. Not the affair, not yet. Not the room, not the code, not the women. It started here. In a kitchen that smelled like uncooked chicken and resentment. With a man who felt unseen. A wife who may or may not have been lying. A friend who knew exactly where to press. And a sentence that sounded too much like freedom. Stop standing there waiting to be chosen. Drew looked toward the hallway where his children were laughing. Then toward the front door Marissa had just closed. Then down at his phone. For the first time that night, he did not feel angry. He felt open. And that was more dangerous than anger ever was. Because anger burns out. Openness invites things in. This was before Rebecca, before Jasmine, before Naomi, before Talia, before courtrooms, hotel rooms, screenshots, and locked doors. This was the part nobody saw. The part before the first secret had a name. The part where Drew stopped fighting to be understood and started wanting to be wanted.